Okay, do you feel absolutely sick and tired of either going on a diet, being constantly inundated by what you quote unquote should be doing when it comes to approaching fat loss or weight loss or whatever it is, and literally just feel like you are taking 10 steps forward, then 20 steps back when it comes to your nutrition? So this is the podcast for you. My name is Laura Jackson.
And I'm Amanda Quinn.
And we are the founders of Fit Chicks Academy. And on today's podcast, we are giving you guys a makeover.
Yes. Who doesn't love a makeover? Makeover shows are the best shows.
They're my favorite. And
right?
Totally. But this is actually a makeover to your approach to eating. So we're going to share with you the 3 fat loss habits that to help you easily reach your goals. Because honestly, guys, it doesn't need to be as complicated as it is.
That's the crazy thing is like how complex we have made things in today's society. It's like, oh my gosh, like I've got to follow this plan. I've got to do this special diet. I've got to do this.
I've got to be a vegan. I've got to be keto. I've got to GAPS diet. I have to cut out sugar
during this certain window, and I've got to do this, and I have to like eat this right after this, and like I feel like we've overcomplicated everything when it comes to health and fitness, and especially weight loss. So I'm really excited to share this stuff today.
Yeah. And I mean, what I do want to say, of course, there are different approaches to eating. So I don't like to call them
that work.
Yeah, I don't like to call them diets, but really that's what like the keto is a diet. Keto also was a diet that was created to help with epileptic seizures. Mm-hmm. So it was actually a protocol that was used to assist with something specific. Or for example, if you're somebody who deals with a lot of irritable bowel syndrome, maybe you would go on the GAPS diet. So that would be your approach, right? So they do have different purposes for a lot of these, and maybe you have some health conditions that your diet has to complement. But when we're looking at general average person, not really any health issues,
and that's just looking to lose fat or weight.
Yeah,
that's the key thing.
And get your body in balance and feel healthier.
Yeah,
we don't need to go to these extremes there. And it's crazy to me how, as a nutritionist, and as with us having Fit Chicks Academy, where we certify their fitness and nutrition coaches, how much we still want that magic pill. Like how much there is still this idea that there's this magic food out there or this magic pill that is going to literally transform our bodies and our weight and our health, or same thing even with exercise. It's like this one magic exercise that's going to turn your booty into Kim Kardashian's. Like, no.
I feel like that wasn't exercise, but I digress. But I don't know her, so who do I know?
But it really boils down to some simple equations and some simple changes. So the first thing I want to talk about is kind of what we call the 4 quadrants when we're talking about fat loss. So, let me say this. And there's the main thing when it comes to fat loss is, of course, you have to be in a caloric deficit. However, when we're talking about fat loss at Fit Chicks, we're looking at holistic fat loss. So that means getting the body in balance, being the healthiest you can be, and then, of course, getting to your goal of losing weight. So quantity, of course, is super important. It's one of the quadrants. It's calorie. You do have to be in a caloric deficit, which means you have to be eating less than your body is burning. Okay, so there's no way. This is when people are like, oh, but if I suddenly eat grapefruit for breakfast every day, it's a fat burner. Grapefruit's a fat burner. But if you eat 6 grapefruits plus all the other food and you eat more than your body needs, so just say your body needs 2,000 calories to maintain, and every day you're eating 2,000 calories, you're going to stay the same weight, even if you're eating a fat loss friendly food. And it's the same thing as if you eat 2,200 calories, even if it's all grapefruits and all healthy, you still are going to be eating more than your body needs, so you're going to gain weight.
I remember, sorry to interrupt you, but I remember somebody saying to us, and it was your sister actually, and she was saying to us once, or to me, we were talking about fat loss and everything else, and she's like, if you don't think that you can gain weight on Brussels sprouts, you are wrong, because I am the perfect example of it, because she has figured it out now, and she's doing amazing, and her health has transformed, her everything else, but I remember she was trying all these different diets and everything else, and she was like, I gained weight eating super clean diets, but it was just because of the quantity.
Well, and that's where, these superfoods that are out there right now, it's it's very challenging because, let's say almond butter, it's great, but almond butter has a lot of calories. And if fat loss is your goal, you have to be in a caloric deficit. So if you're having 2 tablespoons of almond butter, but you think, oh, it's such a great healthy fat, and it is, that's a lot of calories. So we have to take that.
Or like an avocado.
Avocado too. Right now, avocado toast, everything. I love avocados, but you can't eat half an avocado,
Or a full avocado
with your lunch.
Yeah.
If, and again, you can, but as long as throughout the day, you're in a caloric deficit. So there's no magic foods, guys. Quantity is like, I put it as number 2, but it is up there. You have to be in a caloric deficit to lose fat. But my number 1 though, is I recommend to all of my students, all of my clients, is to focus on quality first.
Yes, quality.
So the reason being, of course, is that you can lose fat if you are in a caloric deficit. However, you're not going to have the energy, you're not going to have the vitamins and the minerals to support your digestive health and all of the process that happens within your body. It's going to really help you with your mental health, mental clarity, so many other things. So quality and quantity are like the same. And we like to talk about, focusing the majority on real whole foods made with love. But then but using like the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you are focusing on those real whole foods. And then 20% of the time you can have the things that aren't so nutritionally dense.
Yeah.
We don't like to say things are clean and dirty because that leads to emotional eating and emotional issues with food. Believe us, we've both been there. So we like to call it nutritionally dense and not so nutritionally dense. There's no clean and dirty foods. There's no magic foods.
Like Doritos, they're just not as nutritionally dense as maybe they could be.
Yeah. So quadrant number 1, quality. So we're focusing 80% of the time on real whole foods, 20% of the time you have some wiggle room. Second is quantity. We have to be in a caloric deficit, so eating less than our body needs. The third thing we focus on is macronutrient breakdown. So our macronutrients are protein, carbs, and fats. And we want to make sure that we're getting a balance of the 3 of them because they all have different purposes in the body, right? Now, carbohydrates, we actually can live without them, but carbs are the real source of fiber, which we're going to dive into. And that's why when people completely cut out, when they go on the keto, a lot of times they're cutting out all of their vegetables in addition to all of the carbs that we think of like pasta, which then we cut out all the fiber, which is huge when it comes to fat loss and health.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is consistency. So you can't just do something for a week. Like you don't go to the gym for a week and suddenly walk out with a 6-pack. It has to be a consistent effort. And
again, that goes back to that magic pill mentality.
Yeah. Right? And because
that whole like, I want to do this for 10 days and see. I just had someone yesterday, and I'm not kidding. Someone just yesterday said to me that they're going to go on, that there's this new diet out there that's called the water diet. And it's,
oh my God,
it's 5 days of just drinking water, not eating any food so that you just lose a ton of weight at once. And I was like, so it's just like fasting. It's not really a diet.
And I love fasting. I love fasting, but don't position it like that as like because that again creates a whole emotional negative.
And I was just like, but I also was like, if you're doing this just to lose, I'm like, the chances are you're probably going to gain it all right back.
Yeah.
Be careful. And this is why I'm so happy we're talking about this makeover stuff today, because I think it's just like, I just had someone, so these fad diets, these ideas of like quick fixes and things like that are just so common, right? Like this conversation just happened. So I'm like, and me being in a position of being a trainer and being a co-founder, I was like, of the academy and stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh. And understanding what I know, I'm like, please don't.
But it's like,
please don't do it for that purpose. If you're doing it for a reset, for a fast, for like some sort of, maybe then consider it, maybe not for 5 days, but you know what I mean? Like maybe then consider it. But if the whole purpose was weight loss, I'm like, this is not going to be a long-term solution. It's going to be a very short, quick fix. Of course, you're going to lose weight because you're not eating anything. And then it's going to wreak havoc on your metabolism and all that kind of stuff.
You're going to be in a caloric deficit. Like that's why you're losing weight. It's not because you're doing this magic thing. It's because your calories are less than your body needs. Like
exactly.
That's it.
Exactly. It's zero.
Yeah, they're zero.
Yeah.
But this is why too, like the 3 habits, and we're going to talk about a couple more things before we get into the actual 3 habits that like legitimately, guys, these are so easy that you can just start to implement and start to shift the way you think about food. Because even as far as we've come down the nutrition spectrum and the things we know now, there's still so many conflicting conversations, and there's still so much stuff that's thrown at us. And it's crazy how we just don't know how to eat. But you know, when you're battling not just like the different people who are telling you about these diets, but also the food marketers who are telling you that this is like, these shakes are the thing, or this is the new, you know, green tea is the new thing, whatever it is, it can be really overwhelming. So when we're talking to our coaches or our students in the Fitness and Nutrition Expert program, we always talk to them about focusing on these areas with their clients, so, or with themselves. So the first thing as a coach that we help you guys do is select the best foods that are going to help you reach your goals and balance out your meals, because this is huge.
Yeah.
Secondly, if it's weight loss is your goal, you're going to help them consistently be in a caloric deficit.
Yes.
But the caveat is while feeling as full as possible. Now, most people, when they go into a caloric deficit, we think about cutting calories. So they just cut their meals, small meals, try to eat like way, way less, or eating the same foods they were before. But really, if you were eating, let's say, pizza, and you're trying to be in a caloric deficit, and you're going to have 200 calories for a piece like this big, like 2 inches.
Yeah.
It's like you've got to start to make different food choices that are going to help you feel fuller, so you're not dealing with those cravings. But then you're still going to be reaching your goals, and you're going to be feeling, you know, great about your food choices in the process.
I got to say that what you were just talking about is one of the, like, I think it's one of the most important things that you can do as a coach and also as a person when you're looking at like doing any kind of weight loss strategy. Because I know even for me, when I was like in a state of like trying to lose weight, and even now in this process, because, you know, like I'm in this transformational process myself right now. And I was like, it's the most important thing is eating volume, because I can't just eat. And you know how annoyed I get when people are like, just eat on the little side plate. I'm like, no, I want to eat a big plate, but I want to eat, but as long as it's a big plate and it's full of like spinach and kale or whatever, like I'm cool, like I'm good. And it's still staying within my calorie count. Like I'm still staying within the range. I'm good, but it's like, it's a visual thing for me. And I know that it is, and it is for a lot of people too. It's like,
but it's
feel
also
like you're just having like just this much pizza, like you said, you know, like the 2 inches of pizza, then you're like, oh, you will never feel satisfied. But then if you're eating that as like an apple with, you know, whatever, something else, it's like you're going to be so much better off, and you're also actually going to feel full. But yeah, you'll get into this. But yeah, I just want to say this is one of the most powerful things, I think.
It's very, and it's physiological, like it's your body's actual response. And we know we blame a lot of times if we're not reaching our goals, feeling that we're not good enough, and it's willpower, right? We're like, I don't have the willpower to stay away from the ice cream. Well, no, when your body is, when you're like not eating enough food, or you're not really eating the right types of food, your body is being signaled to go find more food. You can't fight that, right? It's a natural response, because your body's are saying, A, we don't have enough food in our stomach, or B, I don't have the nutrients I need. So that's why you're ravaging in the cupboards, right? So this is where, as a fitness and nutrition expert, as a coach, what you're going to help your clients do is understand, okay, how can I be in that caloric deficit and not have those crazy cravings? And how can I actually do this for the long term?
Yeah.
So this is where, like, this is the last thing before we get into 3 habits. Actually, no, we have one more thing to talk about. But I think that this is where a lot of coaches go wrong, and we do so well in our academy, and I'm going to toot my own horn for this and your horn for this, but is that we're not just teaching theory, guys. We're not just teaching you the books to read about nutrition and weight loss. We're talking about how you actually can get people to really implement this in their lives, which is the hardest thing. Like, you can tell people kale is great for you, but how the heck do I start, if someone's never eaten kale, how do I start to incorporate it? Or
in theory, everything sounds amazing.
Totally.
And then when you actually put it into practice is where you really truly learn how to use it, and use it as a proper tool. And that's
but also giving it to clients who they can use it. Because
well, no, that's what I mean though. I'm talking about it from a perspective of both sides. It's like, if you don't know how to incorporate this into someone's life, because you just know in theory what works, but you've never practiced it, you don't understand it, and you don't know how to implement it. It's like, you know, I've talked to so many of our grads, and they tell me, or even students, like current students, I remember someone saying to me the other day, she's like, I love that I actually know how to do this. It's not just, I think I know, I actually know because I've done it. You know,
well, and
like,
it needs to be doable, but like this is where, like, a lot of coaches, what they'll do is they'll tell you, okay, you need to eat real whole food. So scrap everything that you've been eating, go real whole food. You need to drink 3 liters of water a day. You need to do this and this and this. In real life, guys, as a real human being, that is way too much change. So when we're incorporating real habits, you've got to give yourself, focus on one habit at a time. So these 3 we're going to give you, just even start trying to do 1.
Yeah.
And once you're successful at that, then try to add the other two. But when we're trying to change everything at once, it's too much. It's too overwhelming, and it's proven that you most likely will fail at it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we want to make sure that these habits are doable, and we could do them for real long-term change. So, okay, before we get into the 3 habits, last thing, I just want to talk about the idea of fullness. So this is something that I think is so huge to really understand. And as I was saying earlier, when you're not full enough, your body goes into this signaling mode where your stomach and your brain is having this conversation saying, feed me more, feed me more.
Yeah.
And you're trying so hard not to eat the cookies because you're like, no, I need to be in a caloric deficit. But because you're not eating the right foods, your body's going into like overload, right? This willpower is gone. You're in the cupboards. So
totally. It's like when, sorry, just to give an example of that, it's like when you don't eat all day. Like I know so many people that are like, I don't eat breakfast. I don't eat at work. I just eat when I get home from work. But what happens is, and they're like, I don't know why I'm gaining weight. I eat 1 meal a day. And it's like,
they're probably not in a caloric deficit.
Well, that's just it. That meal is probably so full of calories and fats and everything because your body is craving it and and it's probably super high in carbs because usually that's kind of like the fast energy and things like that you go for. So it's like you probably are eating maybe even twice as much as you should be eating, but in that one meal, because that can happen, guys. And I know that you might be like, how is that possible? Like, I know I can eat like 5,000 calories in one meal if I really wanted to. Easy.
If you're eating processed foods, it's so easy to eat a lot of calories.
Yeah, 100%. So okay, I'm going to stop interrupting you. I'm going to let you keep going. I just had to add that in because I feel like just understanding like how using a real example of like the not eating all day and then not understanding why you're not losing weight.
Yeah. And I'm a big believer in fasting. So I don't eat breakfast. And for me, that works. It's not a strategy I would start with right away. And it's not saying if you don't eat all day and if you just eat one meal that your metabolism slows down. This is not true. That's a myth. But it's that you're eating too much. Again, it goes back to simple math. When you really go back to it. So our goal right now in this conversation too is how can we feel full so we're not overeating during our meals. We're able to stay for longer periods of time without eating. So this will help us to be able to reduce our caloric amount, tap into our stored fat, use that for energy, as opposed to having to keep shoving things in our mouths for energy, right? So when it comes to feeling, like our goal is to feel full during the meal and feel full longer in between meals, as I said. And this is known as satiation and satiety. Okay, so satiation is what you feel during the meal. So when you start to eat, the food goes into your GI tract and then you start to feel less hungry, right? The stretch receptors in your stomach start firing. The hormones start getting active that start to tell the body that we're full, and then you start to get that feeling of fullness.
Yeah.
And the immediate response is, okay, I feel full, stop eating. Satiety is different because it happens in between the meals. So there's some foods that make us feel fuller during the meal, but there's other foods that are going to help us stay full in between meals. So it suppresses hunger. So instead of feeling like, oh my God, I'm starving every hour, now it's like we want to eat the foods that are going to make us be able to go 4 hours or 5 hours without eating anything. So it's like satiation tells us stop eating. It's like the stop sign. And satiety reminds us, okay, we don't have to start eating again for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. So it's cool because now we're going to give you 2 habits that are going to, number one, the first one is going to make sure you feel satiation. So the first one is going to make sure that you feel full during your meal and you feel fuller quicker, which is going to make you eat less. And that is weight loss habit number 1. I know you guys have been waiting for this.
Drum roll.
Drum roll is to include 2 cups of high fiber, low glycemic vegetables at every single meal.
Yeah.
This is also called the volume eating method. So
my favorite eating method.
Totally. So when Amanda was saying,
that's what I say. I like the big plate.
Yeah. She wants to eat a lot.
I'm obsessed with it. Yeah.
And this is where you can.
But I still want to hit my goals.
Yeah. And you can eat a lot because, of course, it's lower. So high fiber, low glycemic veggies are lower in calories. They're high in water, which is also going to help to fill us up. But the main thing is they're super high in fiber. So what ends up happening is you're not eating a lot of calories, but that fiber is filling up the belly. Mm-hmm. And that is going to now send that message to the brain, satiation is happening. We have a lot of bulk in here. And this is going to really make sure that your clients or you're going to start to feel full a lot quicker. So even if you're eating, let's say like a burrito or something, and that's not as nutritionally dense, but you have it with a big kale salad on the side, you probably won't be able to finish that whole burrito. So my other little tip too, have your 2 cups of low glycemic veggies first.
Yes.
You remember back in the day when you used to go to a restaurant and you'd have a salad as an appetizer?
Yeah.
The reason that was twofold. Number one, it used to be like way back in the day, they would serve bitter greens then. So you wouldn't eat just like iceberg lettuce. And what that would do, it would start to trigger the digestive juices in your body to start flowing. So you're basically priming your stomach and you're priming your body to be able to digest. The second thing it does too, of course, is it starts to fill you up a little bit. So if you start to get into the mindset of, okay, I've got my plate and I've got my 2 cups of veggies, before I eat my burrito, I'm going to eat those veggies. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Before I have, well, a smoothie is a bit different because it's all blended together, but just say you're going to have a smoothie and then you're going to have a bagel. Drink the smoothie first. So this way, it's going to start to signal your body, okay, we've got enough in here. You're going to reduce your overall caloric intake because we've got to be in that caloric deficit for weight loss. But you'll also feel super full, so you're not going to be having cravings.
Yep. It's honestly the best. And like, I do this all the time. Like what you were saying about like the burrito thing. I love burritos. I love
burritos too.
I never think to eat them very often, but I do that often because like we'll have pizza at my house, when people come over or something, because it's just easier than having to cook for everybody. We'll just order pizza or something. I always order salad with it and I eat a salad. I always have a salad first because not only for that, also just because I like eating vegetables and I feel like if I don't eat vegetables, it feels weird to me. But also I eat it in the beginning because then, I'm cool just having one piece of pizza because it's like I'm satisfied. I've satisfied whatever craving it was, but I'm like full because of the salad. So it's so like, it's such a golden rule, I think.
Well, and think about it, guys, in the way of like, not just like, oh, well, because veggies are good for me. Think about this. These veggies are actually filling up my belly. Like they're actually triggering stretch receptors that are sending a message to my brain. So what you
tell your brain to slow it down.
To slow it down. And when we're talking about high volume, so what it means, less calories, more food. All of these vegetables are what we call low glycemic. For those who don't know, it means they're more of the watery vegetables. They typically grow in the summer. They're things like broccoli, kale, cauliflower, all your greens, tomatoes, cucumbers, celery, things that aren't starchy. So typically that's why when we say they grow in the summer, because root vegetables grow more in the fall and they're underground and they're more of the starchy ones. So we want to focus on all these watery ones. And I always like, if you're going to do like greens and things like that, yes, spinach is a great baby or green, but having a more fibrous one, like some chard or kale, it's gonna be heavier. Like it's gonna help fill you up a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's so many ways to do it. Like there's so many prepackaged now bags of coleslaw and salads and frozen.
I live and die by those prepackaged salads. I don't like having to like chop up all my veggies and stuff to make a fast salad. I just like live and die by that. Like I just buy the mixed greens already or whatever, or I buy some different salads. There's so many good kale ones and stuff. I usually don't use the dressings because I don't always like the dressing. I find the dressings are always really sweet.
There's a lot of high fructose corn syrup and a lot of fillers. Totally. Make your own dressing so easy.
Yeah, I find them always really sweet. So I don't use those in particular, but they're so great. But what I was going to add to this though is just like from anyone listening, it's like think about when you don't follow this rule. So like if you were just eating pizza, you could probably eat like 4 slices of pizza and you still don't necessarily feel full.
Yep.
If you switch it and you actually have the salad first and then or the veggies first, or however you're eating your veggies, and then you have pizza, you'll probably feel extremely satisfied with 1 to 2 pieces. And it's true. Like how many times have you went and like just ate like the burrito or the pizza and you still feel hungry after?
Oh, but that's even why, like, so and you can sneak, the thing that's great too, you can sneak so many veggies in, and we teach a whole bunch of different methods. But like, for example, I always have like coleslaw, baked coleslaw, broccoli slaw, all that stuff. If I'm making a stir fry, I bulk up on extra, slaw in it just to give more volume with not adding a lot of calories. Or if I'm doing soups, I'll have bags of frozen broccoli, throwing in as much, stuff, or even if it's just kale chopped up. Like there's just so many ways that you can just start to throw things in, mix it in, stir fry with your eggs. Green smoothies are amazing to get more veggies in. There's simple ways that at every single meal you can get 2 cups in. And just make that like your first goal. If you're just like, okay, my first goal is I'm trying to get 2 cups in at every meal. We also will have underneath this on our website, we'll have a list of some different options, some things that we recommend for you to buy for each meal, and you're good to go. And just even try this one for a week and see how you feel.
Yep.
Okay, so the first one, of course, we focused on satiation. We focused on getting the volume so we feel full during our meal, which is going to make us stop eating, and that way we're not going to overeat during the meal. Now, the second one is satiety. So we're going to focus now on how do we keep full in between meals.
Yes.
So of course, the fiber that came in our 2 cups of veggies with the meal is really going to help us slow down digestion, balance out blood sugar. You're going to, stop eating. But the second thing that we want to do is add lean protein at every single meal, because the protein is the most satiating macronutrient, which means it's going to keep you fuller longer. More than fats, more than carbohydrates. Well, alcohol is the only macronutrient, but that's not required to live. But pretty much, if you have protein, if you start to add protein to every single meal, you will feel fuller in between your meals. So you'll be able to go for 4 or 5 hours without eating, instead of being like every 2 hours you're grabbing for more snacks.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. No, and I love that one too, because I do find, and lean protein, it's like, yes, it can come in a meat form, but it can also come in different forms, guys. And this is a big thing for me, because I don't, I was on this meal plan. We talked about this in a past podcast, that I was like, I didn't like it because it was like 6 times a day having to eat meat. And I don't love meat that much, but I did want to have that satiated feeling throughout the day and not be hungry. So I was trying to follow it. It was too much. I found different ways to get my protein in, with like just different protein powders, with other natural, like yogurt, like, and that kind of stuff. So like, there's different ways of getting protein in. It's maybe not exactly the same, and it might not fill you up exactly the same way, but it's going to, and I don't know if that's true or not. Does it fill you up the same way if you're having, like, Laura, and I'm asking you this question, if you have like, say a Greek yogurt or something, or like, I like that Skyr yogurt, the one that has like this super high protein, will that satiate you the same way as like a lean meat protein?
Oh yeah, it just has different amino acids in it. So different sources of protein provide different amino acids, which are the building blocks to your body. So for example, if you're going to do some great vegan or vegetarian proteins, would be things like chickpeas, black beans, kidney beans are really great.
Notice
lentils.
I didn't mention any of those because I don't like beans.
I know, but they're
I wish I did.
They're also a form. They're not just protein. They're also a form of carbohydrate. So they have a different profile, and you usually need to combine them with rice and things like that to another grain or legume to get a complete profile. But when it comes to feeling full, beans are amazing. So is tempeh, which is a fermented soy. So and of course not doing too much of it as women, but getting a good organic tempeh. Different chia seeds are a great source of protein. Crickets are a great source of protein.
Stop with the crickets. I'm never trying them.
Grass-fed beef, all of these things. Now, I always say focus on lean protein, though, not like protein from like really fatty bacon and things like that, because of course we're talking about a weight loss habit. So number one, we want to reduce the calories, and when we can reduce the fat that comes in that protein, we're going to reduce the calories. And you can of course add a plant-based fat like olive oil, or you can also do butter. It's really healthy too. But you're going to reduce the caloric load, because again, guys, I know I keep saying, but you have to remember, if you're looking to lose weight, you have to be in a caloric deficit. You cannot, it doesn't matter if you're eating all beans and quinoa and all of it. Like I said earlier about the grapefruits, it has to be less than your body needs. So lean proteins are going to be lower in calories, but really high in that with giving that satiety in between meals. The other thing too that a lot of people don't know is that when you are in a caloric deficit, you lose both muscle and fat. So as your body is starting to tap into stored fat and break down stuff, some muscle, of course, gets, lost in that process. So that's why it's really, really important, if you are trying to lose weight, that you're getting enough protein, because we want to protect that muscle mass, because the muscle mass, of course, burns more calories when you're doing nothing. So we want to keep that muscle mass going, and that's how you're going to maintain weight loss. So we've got to make sure we're getting enough protein to support the muscles, to keep those amino acids, to help rebuilding them, so your body's not going to start to break them down. And I've seen a lot of people, and you probably have too, and anyone listening, if you've gone on just a weight loss diet and they suddenly they just are very like skinnier but mushier. But also they gain back weight really fast because you have to set your body up for long-term success too, and having muscle is so important.
Yeah.
And the last thing on the protein too, though, is just that this is not just me saying this, there's been a ton of studies that have shown that protein diets that are higher in protein, they have seen higher percentages of fat loss and total weight loss for longer periods of time versus,
I was going to say longer success rates for sure.
Yeah, versus diets that haven't. So we're not saying, again, and it's so funny in our society, like when you focus on a lean protein every meal, we're not saying have a 24-ounce piece of meat. But, 3-4 ounces of one of the things we talked about, half a cup to a cup of beans or lentils, quinoa, whatever. But making sure when you're looking at your plate, you got your 2 cups of low glycemic veggies. You've got some source of good lean protein. And then, of course, if you're going to have a complex carb, healthy fats, whatever with it, but making sure that protein and that 2 cups of veggies, you're going to feel full during the meal and you're going to feel full longer, so you're not eating again. And honestly, guys, it will be game changers. If you're not eating protein at every meal now, you will feel so much different.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, and the last thing, our last weight loss habit too, is of course we need some fun stuff in there. I don't like to say fun stuff, but life is about enjoying life. If you want to go have a glass of wine, if you love French fries, if you love pizza, if you love ice cream, like you have to be able to not have anxiety about still being able to have these things. You have to be able to include them in your life without feeling like you are going to, not reach your weight loss goals. You can still have them and be in a caloric deficit. Like it's possible. So we like to use what we call the pick your poison method.
Yes.
So like if you're going on vacation or you're going to an event or whatever it is, pick one of the following to go along with your meal. So let's say your meal, you're focusing around your low glycemic veggies. Let's say you're having a big, it's a big salad and you're doing some chicken with it. Instead of having, for example, both fats and starch, and then you have a dessert after and you have a glass of wine with it, pick one of them.
Yeah.
So either pick alcohol, starchy or high glycemic carbs, or sugar. So not all three. So this is where most people go wrong. They think, oh, I'm going to be, quote unquote bad. I'm treating myself tonight. And in addition to their chicken and their salad, they end up having a side of French fries. Then they end up having that with a glass of wine. Then they end up having a cheesecake afterwards. But if you just pick one of those and just focus around the low glycemic veggies and the protein, you're going to be able to stay within your goals. We call it a structured flex meal. And then you're still going to be within your goals. You're still going to enjoy your life, but just pick your poison. Just pick one you want. Yeah.
And it gives you that like feeling of not feeling restricted. Because I do think that one of the main reasons why so many people fail on any kind of strategy is that they have no flexibility. So they feel like it's all or nothing mentality. And then as soon as we have the all or nothing mentality, what happens, and I know this happens with me and I know with you too, is that this little voice inside of your head starts going, I need to eat all the French fries.
Yeah, screw this. Let me eat everything.
Yeah. I need to drink 2 bottles of wine because I said I wasn't going to drink any wine. Like it's this weird thing that we have that as soon as we say, I'm having none of this, then you want all of it. So
and then you give yourself 1 glass and suddenly, then you're like, well, screw it. I've already had 1. I might as well have 50.
Exactly. The all or nothing mentality. And it's like, it's this like monster that comes up inside of your brain though, that just says like, oh, you don't want to do this? Now we're going to do it full on, and the cravings become unreal. And like you can't stop thinking about it. You're obsessing about it. And it becomes like this overwhelming thing. So it's like, and I mean, maybe I'm the only person that's how I feel.
No,
it's like,
but I
think it's normal though, because it's like as soon as we try to restrict ourselves, we want to go against the grain. We want to we don't want those kinds of restrictions. So if you think about it from a perspective of, oh, I can still have those things, just not with every meal and not all the time, but I can have them when I'm craving it, when I feel like it's a treat, if I'm going out for dinner or something like that. Like it's whatever it is. It gives you that flexibility to not even want it. It's this weird thing. Like I know you're opposite of me, Laura, that you can't have stuff in your house. But like for me, I have this weird thing where like I have to have a treat in my house, like of like either rice cakes or chips, like something, because I'm like that salty person in my house to know it's here. But when I don't have it in my house, I want to eat it all the time. When I have it in my house, I don't even eat it. Dave is always like, my husband's always like, how do you have these like Doritos in the house for like 2 weeks and you haven't even opened them? I'm like, because I just
want to
know
look
that
at
they're
them.
there. I just know they're there. And as long as I know they're there, I don't crave them. But when I don't have them in the house, I want to eat them all. Like, and it's this weird thing, but it's like, it's part of that mental thing. And I know that that's just an emotional thing that I have to work through too, which is cool.
But that's food.
But it's like,
but
it's
this is why I love this habit, because food is not just nourishment to our body. It's social.
It's an emotional thing.
It's emotional. It's social. It's part of the way that we, I love studying like anthropology, and I love looking at different food cultures and how they eat. But one of the things that's common is that's how you connect to your tribe and your family.
That's why people go for dinner.
Meals.
It's like, it's one of the most social things that you can do is like sit down and break bread with others.
Yeah, you build relationships, and some of the best conversations happen over a meal. So you don't want to feel like, I remember when I was especially high in my eating disorder, going to somebody else's house for dinner was the most anxiety ridden thing for me, because I was like, what are they going to serve me? I don't know how they made this. I don't know how many calories are in it. I don't know, And I would be literally paralyzed, and it would stress me out so much. And over the years dealing with this and understanding, working through my food issues and my body image issues and all this stuff. But now the way I kind of deal with it too is that if I'm going to someone's house for dinner, earlier in that day, I will just focus around lean proteins and low glycemic veggies.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how they're cooking things, so they'll probably be higher caloric, whatever. But I just eat a little less during the day, and I just focus on those because I know they're lower calorie, but I'm going to feel full and satiated. And then that's what I just don't stress as much over dinner anymore, because I feel like I've got those tools that I'm not walking in being like, oh my God, I'm out of control. It's this control issue and all this stuff. Yeah. So this way, just start to understand that food, it's such an interesting thing. And especially with women, we have this.
It doesn't have to be the enemy.
But we also have had this entire lifetime of being told that we are not good enough the way we are. We need to look a certain way. Women should be skinny and should be this and should be that, and food marketers and diet industry. Like, it's horrible. And it's not your fault. It's not your fault if you have these feelings. Like, it took me a long time to understand why I became the way I became. But when you look at all that we've been exposed to, and now there's that shift happening with more body diversity, which is awesome, and showing health at all different shapes and sizes and ages and races and abilities, which is incredible. And we're so a part of that movement with Veggies Academy and the Fitness and Nutrition program, all of our programs, because we need more health coaches out there who are real people and who are all different in all different places in their lives, in their journeys.
Who are showing health in different ways.
Who are showing health, and it's not about a one size fits all. So it's really important that we start to understand, like, these feelings and these things, they can be reprogrammed. But try to do one of these habits. I would recommend starting with the veggies, because you're going to start to feel fuller. The veggies are the protein. You can pick which one. If you're already eating veggies, do the protein. If you're already eating protein, focus on the veggies, and then add the pick your poison later. But just because, honestly, guys, what's going to happen is your body is going to start to balance out, and you're going to start to feel fuller quicker, and you're going to suddenly just notice, wait a second, I don't have these cravings. Because dieting is hard when you just cut calories. You have created war with your body when you cut calories without focusing on the quality, right? Because eventually you're going to start to feel that. You're really going to start to feel like, oh my gosh, like, okay, this has 400 calories in this, little protein bar, but I'll just eat that. That's all I get. Well, there's no fiber there to fill up that belly. There's no fiber to hit those stretch receptors. So, 20 minutes later, you're like, why am I freaking starving again? And then you grab another, that's 800 calories. And like, when you could have a 400 calorie meal with lean protein and veggies, it's going to fill you up for a super long time. So just focus on the one. Try to do it without judgment, or without, if you miss a meal and you don't do the 2 cups of veggies at it, don't beat yourself up. But my challenge to you guys is do it for a week and just literally see how you feel. And if the week is good, do it for 2 weeks, then do it for 3 weeks. And eventually it will start to become part of who you are. And like I said earlier, this is what we do with our coaching programs, and what we teach our coaches is that you've got to start with these smaller, realistic habits, because when it comes to change, you've got to have those wins. And when we do too much, it's overwhelming, and then we do nothing. So focusing on one small habit at a time, you're going to see big results. Awesome. Okay, guys, so with that, we are wrapping this up. Our makeover. Hopefully you guys learned some stuff today, had some fun. And of course, if you're interested in becoming a fitness and nutrition coach, make sure to check out our Fitness and Nutrition Expert Program. You can download our 30-page brochure at fitchexacademy.com/FNE brochure. And if for some reason you type that in and it doesn't go, just go to fitchexacademy.com. You can click on the tab and get it from there. So have an amazing day, and I can't wait to hear about all the veggies you guys are eating.
Bye, guys.
Bye.